Welcome back for that TVZ analysis segment. We're going to be going into a bit more of your life, and you actually have a degree. The way that you phrased it in your application video was you were making pretty things.
So basically, well, I don't have a degree, but I have a diploma in digital design and development. Basically, yeah, it's making pretty things in whatever digital form possible, whether it's in like video, web, or just graphics in general. I'm just pretty much deciding what to do with my life right now. I've pretty much had 4 years worth of content shoved within 2 years, and they pretty much forced me to do all this work that I really didn't want to do. Basically, because of that, I don't know what to do anymore because I've been pretty skewed by that, by just like the school experience and all that.
I kind of want to ask you about I guess, your relationship with maybe your family and like your family knowing that you're involved in esports. Are they very supportive of it or no?
Recently, like my mom's been a lot more supportive in
Mhm.
terms of just understanding what I'm doing, why I'm playing this game, why I try and entertain people on stream and things like that. My dad still doesn't really understand. I brought home some prizes, cash, and all that. I've even won my WCS trip in 2012 to Toronto. So because of that, my parents have been a little more accepting of what I do, but obviously they want me to have the backup, which is what I was doing for college. But because of how stressful school was, I just don't really want to do it anymore. But I've found something else within school that I might want to do later on.
What's that?
Basically, it's more focused towards marketing. During my time there, we actually didn't learn too much like coding and everything. If you learn code and everything, I learned a lot more about marketing and other useless stuff more than actually coding and designing things, unfortunately. I kind of picked up marketing like on the way, and I was just really interested in how it works.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your Terran versus Terran, because that is the next matchup on the docket. How you feeling about TVT right now?
So TBT has been an on and off situation for me. Well, it's very map dependent. There's certain maps where you can get away with certain builds. Personally, I don't like the meta of TBT. The current consensus of TBT right now is the gas verse variations of whatever Banshee, Hellion, Widowmine, sometimes even Reaper, Hellion. But I don't agree with any of that. I hate playing that style. I like to play in different contrasts because in Wings of Liberty, when people did tech builds, I did bio-based builds. So if they do a bio-based build, I do a tech-based build. I don't like playing exactly the same. Obviously, it's a mirror matchup, but there's ways to manipulate how the outcomes work based on your advantages and disadvantages. And with me, gas versus gas versus is just a no-no for me because I just don't understand how someone can just do both things and this early, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Which is why I try to opt more for a more expansion build when someone does a gas versus build. Right now, it's obviously not very predictable and very safe as to know what type of gas versus build your opponent is doing. But as long as you know the timings and know how to manipulate the build when you're defensive, it's obviously very good. And if someone does a defensive build against me and plays the exact same style as me, I'm totally okay with that because I don't want to play the gas versus Banshee, and I feel it's very disgusting.
Do you feel like that limits you in terms of, because I know I hear from a lot of other Terran players like those 1-1-1 or like gas first and Banshee openings slash gas first and going in up to starboard for Raven openings is one of the safest styles or like the most versatile styles you can play in TVT. So do you feel like not going for that limits you?
Yeah, I feel that a lot of people can metagame me because I'm strictly doing one build, one or two builds even.
Mhm.
And there's certain maps where I try my best to veto because I know you can't do the certain styles that I do on that map. And I really hate playing tournaments, especially versus Terrans on that specific maps where you can't go gas first, because if you don't do gas first, you're literally dead to whatever. Yeah, I feel it's a pretty big disadvantage for me. And I feel like my theoretical side on TVT is very weak because of that, because I've obviously tried to do gas first here and there. I still don't understand it. I still don't like it. Like, I've obviously won games here and there, but I just feel terrible because I don't know what's going on. Having experienced the aggression from gas first, I know what to do. I know how to respond. But if something comes at me differently, it's a little bit different in terms of that situation. But for the most part, as long as I get to the mid game, once I have 2-3 bases, I'll be okay.
So when you say lack of experience, what does that lack of experience come from?
I just don't want to play gas first. I hate it. Like, I despise it with my life. I need to have the build contrasted. I can't have you be doing the exact same thing as I hate that. And I'd rather have, yeah, I need to be here and you up here, or I'm down here and you up there. That's how I think of TVT right now. The problem with that in general, like why it's been like that for so long and why I can't adapt to that, is because of the Banshee and the tank buffs. And I really hate how Blizzard buffed that, but obviously it's been needed for certain matchups. I mean, it just makes TVT a lot more aggressive, which I don't like.
So if you had it your way, you would have TVT go into much more macro-oriented builds then.
Yes, like just from the start, like back in Wings of Liberty, it was literally just one Rax expand, maybe even CC first, and some once in a while you throw in the tech build, the exact same opener that you do in Heart of the Swarm with Gasper's Banshee. Those were okay because the threat of like follow-up tank pushes, yeah, it was very scary because you had to research 100 for the siege mode upgrade back in the day.
Yeah.
And because you don't have to spend that now, you just go and you're like, you can't do anything with bio. I mean, there are manipulations with bio, and I think during the time that I was kind of sat down and was like, okay, I am not liking gas first, I will not do gas first, I'm going to try something different. And I kind of had an idea of what to do in terms of just adjusting to how the metagame works, but I ended up not doing it because I was just really lazy to do so.
If you had to describe yourself as having one strength and one weakness in the matchup, what would those two things be?
My strength is just my mechanics are actually okay at that matchup for some odd reason. My mechanics and my positioning is sometimes very good. As for my weakness, my theoretical assumptions of things in the matchup is very terrible.
All right, well, we're going to check out your Terran versus Terran. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
It's game time! Terran versus Terran.
Welcome, everyone, to the Terran versus Terran. Once again, joined here by Master Dalka. We're going to be jumping into the game and introducing the players as we spawn. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the red Terran player. He is some anonymous barcode.
And over on the 9 o'clock position here of Catalina, the home of the Septipus, we have our blue Terran player. He is not an anonymous barcode, at least not to us, as he is our Terran player of the day. He is ElhayM.
Yep, and it's gonna be a pretty interesting game. I'm not gonna lie. In the replay when we loaded it up, ElhayM actually had a Platinum League border on him, but he's up against like Masters Terran players, so it is kind of even-ish footing. I don't know whether this game was played like before GM list was out or something like that, but it looks like ElhayM was playing on a new account, and this red Terran player may be underestimating ElhayM.
Could be. Though, of course, you know, at the time, it may have been like MMR decay, and there were a couple factors that people were wary about. It was like, oh, if I get a low league, either I suck or the other person hasn't been here in a while and they're still really good, or, you know, as you said, it could be a new account. So there's always these things that you have to be thinking about going through your head. And so far it seems that a red Terran player, you know, he's not going to be getting lax on his builds or anything. He's keeping his timing crisp as he should be.
Yep, indeed. And we are going to be seeing that nice and early gas geyser having been taken for both of these players, but got a little bit more gas mined over here for our barcode Terran player. The Bear's going to be finishing up, and I imagine a factory is going to be plopping down, so we could be seeing a 1-1-1 opening. And it's worth noting that ElhayM did talk about how much he hates the gas openings. He's gone for the Reaper opening, but he doesn't want to go for the 1-1-1 kind of opening that he, again, talked a lot about, saying he didn't really enjoy doing.
Well, you know, ElhayM is going to be going for the Reaper, as you said, but our red Terran player, he knows the horrors of Catalina. He is going to be dropping down a supply depot at the top corner of his base so that he can get some vision of that ledge. Be sure, if a Reaper does arrive, he'll be able to see it. And, you know, going for the 1-1-1, you do get about 2 Marines right to start off, so he will have some defense against the Reaper as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a reactor follow-up from ElhayM, as well as that CC plopping on down. He does want to take it to the late game. Again, ElhayM mentioning a lot in TVT. He doesn't like those kind of early game stages. He wants to make it to that late game. So this is a nice way to kind of do it. Put on a little bit of pressure, get some scouting information with the Reaper, and just expand. Try and get up the unit count to force it into the late game.
Yeah. And right now it does appear that we will be getting a tech lab on the barracks, which is next to the starport, so probably going to be getting some Banshees. One SCV getting low on health, but will not be able to finish it off. ElhayM is out now, and that Reaper should be going down, and it will.
Yeah, only had one guy in gas for a little bit over there from the red barcode Terran player, so he may be going for, I'm sure he's going to be going for Banshee or something, but I don't think he's really going to have enough gas to actually go for Cloak or anything immediately, at least. So ElhayM may have a slightly easier time, and plus he saw the actual Banshee coming out, or saw the starport, so gonna have full knowledge of what's coming.
We'll actually be able to get Banshee and Cloak right away, as now that he did have that second refinery there, getting them both up to 3 does kind of help a bit. ElhayM getting caught out at the front of ElhayM's base by 2 Marines. Well done with that body blocking.
Yeah, raising supply depot at the exact right moment, so the ElhayM kind of did a little bit of a double take, then, yeah, as you mentioned, like the body block, really nice kind of micro play from ElhayM, but gonna be moving on to the later stages of the game. No expansion being thrown down just quite yet, although we do have the SCV moving down the natural, so looks like we might be seeing this transition toward the later stages, but we'll have to see how much damage this Banshee harass is gonna actually do.
Starport's finishing up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Viking come out, or a Raven, actually, but probably Viking first, as, you know, you don't have a tech lab on at the moment. Turret also going to be going down, and that's probably for the best right now. And he does also have the Widow Mine, so Banshee shouldn't be able to do too much, but, you know, our red Terran player, he's not going to be fooled. He's going to be going for the natural to start off.
Indeed. I really like the turret placement over here from ElhayM. He's covering not just his mineral line, he's also covering all these production facilities, including that add-on, the reactor. Even if the missile turret can't fire all the way to the top side of that reactor, it's going to give vision, true sight vision, for that Banshee a little bit further than it can actually shoot. So it's going to be much better covered over there.
All the SCVs, minus that one that just popped out, is actually in range of that turret, but we'll be able to get the mule as it's just too far. Banshee going to be taking half of its health gone, actually, and that's not too good, especially since we do have a Viking now out. But we'll be able to get another one on the bunker. We'll force a cancel on it as well.
Yeah, it's taking a lot of damage over here, and oh, it's actually going to decloak over here to decides to reconsider, but there is another Banshee moving along the bottom side, so this Viking from ElhayM is going to be pretty far out of position because of this.
Yeah, and we do have another Banshee coming in towards the main here. The first Banshee actually did lose an extra 25 energy because of the decloak, but the Banshee in the main now is going to be able to deal some damage. So far, only 1 kill drop from ElhayM, going to be heading towards his opponent's natural, and for the moment, it does seem that he is safe from the Banshees.
Oh my god, and ElhayM actually just runs past all of these Marines over at the front, and he's going to be able to go straight into the main base and actually unload over there safely. He only lost half the hit points of that medevac. I mean, talk about YOLOing it in there.
Really just not caring at the moment in terms of what his opponent wants to do. He's going to try getting in the damage that he wants, and the Raven is trying to give chase. No Hunter Seeker out yet. Banshee did arrive back at home, but it looks like that medevac, 80 health remaining, gonna be able to get away safe.
Yeah, gonna be able to unload, heal up, and maybe even go back in once again once the barcode Terran player does decide to move out or something. But we got some siege tanks now coming in for our barcode Terran player. I want to note that ElhayM, he's got some siege tanks, he's got a couple of Marines out, but he definitely has a lot fewer units, I want to say, in terms of like his siege tank count, in terms of you know, the Banshees, etc. But those medevacs are really going to be helping out.
Yeah, they're equal in army supply right now, but as you said, there are a lot of more specialized units on our red Terran side compared to the just, you know, straight up low tier Marines plus a couple medevacs. Drop does come back in, but kills off supply depot and gets away.
Yeah, that's all you need to do, man. You just need to do that free damage whenever you can.
Oh no, these Vikings, they're both trying to scissor up on this medevac. It's gonna go down, but Marines will get one of them.
Yeah, I mean, a Viking for a medevac, I think definitely going to be favoring the player that retains the Vikings, of course. But ElhayM, I like what he's doing actually with these Marines now. He's just sending them out to all the different locations where maybe drops could be moving in, maybe there's a hidden expansion or something. I mean, as long as they've got to make that long trek back, why not make use of them?
Yeah. In the meanwhile, though, it does look like our two players, you know, this is a mirror matchup. Doing a lot of the same thing isn't too surprising. Do have +1 on the way for both, as well as Stim getting up a bit more of their production. But ElhayM, he's going to be going for a third base, and this seems to be a very common thing. You know, even in our TVZ, we saw ElhayM. He went for that third base a lot quicker than his opponent.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting to just look at the army positioning for both these players. I mean, ElhayM, he's starting to get up that missile turret ring around the edge of his base, but I mean, he's really only just left that single siege tank plus the missile turrets in his main base. Everything else is moving over to the natural or just kind of position around the map. I mean, just look at his map vision. It's actually pretty awesome. He's going to be very much prepared for drops, but you take a look at the red Terran player. He's got half of his army, more than half of his army, sitting in his main base, just afraid of the drop coming in right now.
Yeah. And SCV can be moving over towards the third. We'll drop down to supply depot first, and it's not quite the best, as it's probably going to go down to this Marine that ElhayM had.
Yeah, Banshees will clean that guy up, but I mean, again, seeing the supply depot over there, that kind of is a big indicator that, hey, my opponent's looking to take their third expansion sometime in the near future. But ElhayM already has his third finished up, so he's already ahead in that regard.
And right now, combat shield on the way for our red player, whereas just +1 armor for ElhayM. Do actually have the armory on the way now, so going to be looking to get 2-2 started up soon after +1 armor is done. And for right now, I feel like ElhayM is playing I'd have to say a very Canadian style, I guess, because every Canadian Terran that I see at the high level, they're always just trying to keep as much map vision as possible and keep their opponent scared in their bases. That way, you know, you can get your lead, take it, and then go so far with it while your opponent's still just stuck in their base on 2 bases because they're afraid of aggression coming at them.
Yeah, and it's actually really cool how he's done it. He's done that one drop, sure, but besides that, for the most part, he hasn't actually been engaging his opponent. He's just been having a constant map presence with a Marine or two, just constantly exerting some sort of very, very light form of pressure. And it has actually scared this Terran player into thinking, oh man, the drop could be coming in at any time. I gotta be careful. He's even got a sensor tower for crying out loud in his main base. He is very scared of that drop potential.
Yeah, 12-minute sensor tower is not something you see every day in a TVT, as, again, as you said, it's very afraid. And he's even got a Viking just on patrol. That is a Viking he could be using for air superiority when the main fight comes. But meanwhile, it looks like we're going to have the main army going to be going around the north side of the map, trying to find something. Maybe, oh, he might be elevatoring up this ledge into the main base.
Yeah, I think he was looking for the third expansion, but yeah, you're right. It's going to be a great opportunity to do that. He also has the double medevacs moving in over to the other potential third location, and he sees that there's a supply depot, and wait a second, there's no expansion over there. Well, I guess I'll just continue to move in and siege up in your main base, but the Banshee's going to be able to do some nice damage over here.
And we've also got 4 medevacs of our red Terran player heading in towards our ElhayM's main base. 2 tanks going to be going down due to the missile turrets, and a couple more medevacs going to be going down as well. It looks like the elevator play didn't work out too well, as some of the medevacs were dropping on the low ground by accident. 2 tanks in the main as well as a handful of Marines, but there was already tanks pre-set up for ElhayM in the main base. And it looks like he's going to be able to clean this up and still put on more aggression, as he's got units moving in towards the main, or towards the natural, and he still has the tanks set on the low ground outside the main.
Yeah, he's doing a great job over here. He's finally getting out some of those units he needs to actually clean up this army in his own main base. He has still some Marines left over, and these tanks, as you were mentioning, already doing a lot of damage to those Marines whenever the red Terran player tries to move in. But I mean, ElhayM has lost a lot of units over here. He's kind of outnumbered. He may need to unsiege these siege tanks and just try and elevator into the main base as soon as possible. He's just going to be losing a lot of units over here.
Yeah, these 3 tanks are kind of left on their own. There was only about 10 Marines there. They're all going to be going down, but, you know, he was able to shave off a few more Marines from that. And plus, also, ElhayM does have that third base for quite a while now. So his production is not going to be lacking. He's going to be getting those resources out. And plus, also, now, +2 weapons did finish up, +3 weapons on the way, as well as +2 armor. He has a very big supply or upgrade lead right now, as +2 anything is not even on the sights for our Red Terran player.
Yeah, ElhayM definitely didn't get the better end of that trade, I would say, in terms of his army trading, but he definitely got a decent number of workers killed. Actually, not even a decent number of workers. It's actually just more the fact that ElhayM has been on top of his macro, and now it's going to be paying off a little bit, as he does finally have an army that's able to contend with his opponents, even though he lost more during those kind of base trade-ish drops.
Yep. And we're going to be getting that very TVT-esque standoff now with the siege tanks. It looks like ElhayM, though, he's not content with just staying in the same spot. He's going to be trying to flank around the north or the east side, or maybe retreat. No, he's going to be going due east and then heading down south. As that way he's going to be able to flank this, as all the Marines, they're off on the west side, thinking that the entire army is still there.
Oh yeah, he gets all the pickups on almost every single siege tank. One siege tank remaining, even that's going to get picked off. And ElhayM even snipes off the Raven for his troubles. Now, he's got to be careful over here. He's going to actually get completely surrounded with this army. Oh no, the medevacs, they try and load up with what they can, but it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, there's just a tank and 2 Marines in there at the moment. Not too much in terms of air, just vision, and plus also getting all those tanks. He lost a lot of Marines with that. 5 tanks still remain here for our Red Terran player. But it looks like back at home, what does ElhayM have? He does have 3 tanks, a handful of Marines. I feel like ElhayM, he may actually want to go for just a more passive style, just get up his units for the time being, as he does have a lot of medevacs, so that's not the problem. It's just get a bigger standing army to move out with.
Yeah, that may be a possibility, although I think that ElhayM, he may just be kind of thinking the exact opposite, right? Where if your opponent has the bigger army, keep them at home so that they can't engage, and try and go for the engagements when it's favorable. Over here, it's kind of a questionable. It might actually work out over here well for ElhayM. I mean, he's got the tank on the high ground, doing a lot of damage. He may actually be able to trade efficiently here. Wow!
Yeah, he had 1 tank not siege there, so that way he would have a bit more DPS added in, and that's really what he needed there, as with all those tanks already sieged up for our Red Terran player, sure, you have some siege on the high ground for yourself, but they're only going to have so much range. You need a bit more DPS, kind of like Marauders, essentially, is what that tank was doing.
Yeah, and now we end up seeing the desperation lift up at the 21-minute mark, because, I mean, he's mined out of his main base. The Red Terran player has to use that main orbital command to go to the third. ElhayM has been comfortably mining off that third this entire time. If ElhayM wanted to, he could actually try and take a 4th right now with one of those other orbital commands, but for now, he's going to be looking to put on the pressure again.
And, you know, he does have +1 vehicle weapons, +3 infantry weapons, and +2 armor at the moment, while our Red Terran player only on 1-1 for his Marines. So his tanks are going to be packing even more of a punch. His +2 vehicle weapons going to be finishing up soon as well. And ElhayM, you know, I do like, again, he's not trying to stay in one spot and just have a standoff. He's going to try moving around his army and trying to find that most beneficial position to fight from.
Yep. Maybe finding it over here, as a lot of the Marines are segmented off from the siege tank. Siege tank seats up on the left-hand side, but ElhayM cleaning up the Marine count and retaining a couple of his own. More reinforcements coming in from the Barcode Terran player, the Red Terran player, looking to try and defend, but he just doesn't have quite enough.
Oh, and actually, meanwhile, off at the third base of ElhayM, there was a small drop of leftover Marines. We'll be able to kill off a few SCVs, and actually will get that gas. SCVs are now going to have to attack, but also ElhayM, he is still pushing forward on the front. I think that drop at the third may not even be able to do too much, as we still have so many tanks left over here, and now SCVs are going to have to get pulled to fight this, I think.
Oh my god, the medevac count for both these players is actually ridiculous. They're all just actually sitting right on top of each other. You'd think there'd be some air traffic controls about that, but the siege tanks for ElhayM are getting cleaned up. They're unsieged just to try and deal as much as single target DPS as they can, and ElhayM is starting to push on in.
Very valiant effort from a Red Terran player. I do like, you know, he did have a few Marines still left up on the north side of the map. Might as well try and deal some damage over at the third. But ElhayM, he just had the larger standing army. He was ahead in bases. He was ahead in upgrades too. So even if his army was a bit lacking compared to his opponent, he would have been able to equalize it out, having, you know, +3 infantry weapons and +2 vehicle weapons, as well as the +1 armor, versus his opponent's just mere 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Terran player was just not able to get up that third expansion, or he didn't try as much to get up the third expansion, and really that just kind of set him very, very far behind. He was pretty committed to making some big damage happen, and when he couldn't make it happen, and ElhayM was actually the one putting on the pressure, he ended up just getting further and further ahead, and his macro was able to take over. But with that being said,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going to the analysis segment with ElhayM. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back for the Terran vs. Terran, everyone. I'm here with ElhayM again, and we're going to be taking a bit of a look at that game. And ElhayM, give us your thoughts. What was going on in that game?
So obviously this game, this Terran goes gas first. I hate playing gas first, like I was saying earlier. Basically, I identify that my opponent is, through my vision, because I scouted with the Reaper, he has double gas. So the possible outcomes of this are Banshee or Raven. And if it's a Raven, I'm totally okay. If it's a Banshee, I'm also okay, but not as okay as it would be with a Raven. So basically, you need to be knowing the timings of when to throw down your engineering bay, or getting a second gas to get a Raven in this matchup. And basically, the time that you want to be throwing it down is around like 5:30, 5:40, the NG bay. So you can grab your turrets, and you want to be actually grabbing 3, because if you skimp out on just 2, you're pretty dead in terms of your production. The Banshee can easily sit at your production, and your opponent can do a tank all in. Because at this point, Terran feels very well, Terran, because it's Terran matchup. The defending Terran feels very scared because obviously your opponent went for the more aggressive build. So having an extra turret near your production obviously deters that. And basically, like you saw here, like, the Banshee came in and the Viking dealt with it, and I also respond with a counterattack with a with the medevac, sorry, with 8 Marines, just because I want to apply a little more pressure back onto my opponent, and because my opponent doesn't have the economic lead. If my opponent played greedier, I can maybe sometimes like outright win the game, since my opponent is either making tanks, Banshees, and not medevacs. So the power of the single medevac with 8 Marines is super duper strong, and if you control it well, which I kind of did, I kill like 5 extra workers, which normally I shouldn't be able to as a defending player, right? And basically here I just macro up, and it's kind of a stylistic matchup where you decide whether you want to take your third base or 5 Raxes early on. It really, like, pretty much after the build order is over, defending like the Banshee harass, it's pretty much do whatever the heck you want. And this is kind of where I kind of I shine, because I do whatever I want here. If you look on the mini map, I actually spread out my Marines with the 7 or 8 Marines that were in the medevac. I spread them out very nicely, so I can pretty much cover everything. These are to look for Doom drops and all that, because Doom drop is obviously very strong in this matchup, and it's very hard to tell when it actually happens, because here, like, let's say a pause. What if my opponent did a Doom drop before I even spread out my Marines? It's very hard to tell. It just depends on how focused your opponent is in terms of their production. And in this case, my opponent really didn't focus on getting these 2 medevacs out quickly, as opposed to just making Marines tanks and being defensive and all that, because both players have no clue what's going on, and it's pretty much up to the player to either take risks or just play super safe in order to get ahead. From my perspective, I played super safe because I got the extra 2 Raxes before the 3rd CC. Normally, I would get the 3rd CC just to pretty much kind of follow up how TVP works on how I do TVP. I take my 3rd CC before the 2 Raxes, and I play greedy in that regard. But in this matchup, sometimes things can get a little hectic, so that's why I want to get the 2 extra Raxes just in case I screw up somewhere, because it's very easy to botch an engagement even though you're up in supply. The biggest factor in this matchup, beyond the openings, is the 3rd base. And in this case, if you look at my opponent, he has no 3rd and I have a 3rd, right? And sooner or later, that 3rd is going to be basically the winning cause of this match because I have a third secured and my opponent actually doesn't have a third starting, right?
Yeah.
And obviously upgrades as well are very important in this matchup. But it's kind of mostly how many units you can make, and that's how I feel the matchup is how the matchup pans out is as to how many units you make. But there are times and certain situations where upgrades are extremely important. That's why you want to always keep up on your upgrades. In this game, I don't think I've kept up too much, even though I am ahead in upgrades. But for the most part, it's mostly about the third base and just making more units. And eventually, since Terran has the mule, you're going to mine out much faster. And having the extra base and having the ability to make more units and having the ability to just trying to destroy your opponent through positional advantages is pretty important because obviously resources are the main thing of this game.
All right, well, thank you very much, ElhayM. We're going to be going back to the interview segment, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back, ladies and gentlemen.